So I just got a brand new smartphone in the studio. This is called the TCL 10 Pro. And those of you unfamiliar with TCL, this is a company that usually focuses on really good budget products. In fact, they're the same company that makes the current BlackBerry devices that are still available on the market. This is a $449 smartphone. So to put this in context, it's about $50 more expensive than the iPhone SE and possibly a good alternative if you're looking for something on Android. Now, this is a phone that has the look of a very premium smartphone. And the way they do that is they give you the cosmetic design, but then they sacrifice other things in order to continue with a lower price point. You can do it! Okay, we have the phone itself. Inside the box, we have a SIM tool, and of course, we're gonna have some paperwork. Ooh, and a case to go with your phone. I love these like really terrible TPU cases because they're a great alternative until you get a real case. So this way you don't break your device until that time happens. Now this is very, very flexy, and I don't like this tramp stamp on the back. I know they're trying to be cool with the whole L as a display logo, but it just looks like they ran out of printer ink. You get a bunch of manuals, which we don't care about. You do have your USB Type-C charger, and of course, a charging brick. Now, this charging brick charges up to 18 watts fast charging. There's no wireless charging on this device, but at least it can fast charge it. Now, I have to admit, this is a very, very good looking phone. Like, for a mid-range device, this honestly looks just as good or comparable to some of the more expensive smartphones that are on the market. Top of the phone feels a bit darker than you get down to the bottom, and the gray kind of gets a little bit lighter. It's just a nice way to color your phone. Now, this camera array is pretty insane. Like, there's zero camera bump on the back, and what you're getting is 4 lenses in a mid-range device. You have your 64 megapixel wide lens, which will take your regular photo. You have a 16 megapixel ultra wide lens. You have a 5 megapixel macro camera, and then of course a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which of course will help you with things like portrait mode and distances. You have a smart button, which you can bind to specific applications if you want it to load quicker. And then of course, on the right-hand side, you have your volume rocker and power button. Now they do have a almost notchless display, but they decided to go with a little camera cutout at the top. Well, I guess it's more of a notch since it indents downwards, but overall it's a very clean display. The one thing I do not like though is these edges. They're not as, I don't know, as bad as the OnePlus 8, but they're pretty darn close. And for those of you that are anti-edge, you're probably not gonna like the way this feels when you're typing on it. Now this is interesting. This has a historic piece of tech on it. This has one of those things they used to call a headphone jack, something we're no longer seeing on any smartphone. IR blaster. This is another thing I haven't seen on a smartphone for a while. And of course you have a speaker, SIM tray, which you can put in 2 SIM cards or a SIM card and micro SD. Now, interestingly, this phone does have an in-display fingerprint sensor. It's pretty quick. Obviously, it's not as fast and snappy as the OnePlus 8 Pro, but fast enough for a mid-range device. The theming on this device is not too bad either. It's not overbearing. They didn't bog it down with an insane amount of extra apps that get you confused. It still looks fairly clean. The app drawer is fine. You do have Google Now when you swipe to the right, which is always my favorite place for it to be. The menu does support, of course, Android 10, which means you get all the new features like dark mode baked in, and overall getting around the menus is very convenient. Now, the one thing I do like about this device is the bezel-less display. I mean, it's a little chunky on the bottom, but I think for a mid-range smartphone, they actually did a really good job. Considering this is a 1080p display, the colors pop, they're vibrant. It's not as bright as a Galaxy device, but I think it sports around 600 nits of brightness, so very similar to the Pixel 4. Now this does support an always-on display, and of course it has 6 GB of RAM, which is like the absolute minimum I want to use on an Android phone. But the one area they had to cut costs was the CPU. This is a Snapdragon 675, so very similar to the Snapdragon 835, which was released a couple of years ago. It's not a slow performer, but like when you're scrolling down certain menus, there is a bit of micro lag that you'd get on this device compared to some of the faster performing smartphones that are on the market. It's not bad by any means. It still feels fast and fluid, but it's something to consider when there's other phones like the iPhone SE, which has an A13 and is faster than most processors in premium phones. A lot of you are probably saying, Matt, why would I buy or spend money $450 on an Android phone when I can get the iPhone SE for $399? And you're absolutely right. Performance-wise, this phone will completely destroy this. But the TCL 10 Pro offers a lot of other advantages. Like for example, this camera has so many different modes to choose from. You can use the regular portrait mode, you can use it in the front-facing camera, the rear camera. You could also use super night mode to take nighttime photography. You can go all the way into the menu and do things like super macro photography. All these things you can't do on the iPhone SE unless you spend more on an iPhone 11. So you're taking away the speed, but you're getting a bunch more features that you wouldn't necessarily get on the $399 iPhone SE. So unfortunately, there's only one speaker on this device, and it's the bottom firing speaker. And I would have loved to have dual speakers, considering they just could have utilized the earpiece on the top to provide stereo quality. I'm gonna give you an example of how this phone sounds compared to the iPhone SE. So obviously the iPhone SE sounds better. It just sounds so much better balanced. Like you can hear the mids, there's bass. It just feels like a better sound experience. Not that the mono speaker is bad, but at the end of the day, it's a mono speaker, and what you're really hearing is more of the high end. Now the battery is big in this, 4,500 milliamps for a 6.47-inch display. That's 1080p. My gut feeling is that you're gonna get exceptional battery life on this device. I mean, this is a fairly good priced mid-range smartphone with a lot of the bells and whistles that you'd usually find on more expensive flagship phones. Yes, it's not going to be as fast as the iPhone. It's not going to get updated as quick as the iPhone, but if you are looking for every single feature you can pack into a smartphone, this device is one that you might want to consider. Now, I'm going to be reviewing this. Please let me know your questions in the comment section down below, and I'll make sure to answer them in my full review. I'm always on Twitch every second night if you feel like playing a little bit of Call of Duty Warzone. Of course, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.